I first started making work about the birdsong when I found myself in the darkroom one day, and I was thinking about how I liked painters' studios, the way they could have the doors open and the light could stream in, and they could have windows open, and they could work from subjects from life. And I found that being in the darkroom, the very fact that it was in a darkroom, really restricted what you could creatively make from life, because you're just in a dark room and you can't make work directly from a subject that's sitting or placed in front of you. And I was, because the dark room's kind of like an isolation tank, it really doesn't let, well, it can't obviously let any light in, but what it can let in is sound. And I realised that sitting there, that I could hear birdsong from outside. And it struck me that if I could produce work that was an accurate response to any subject that I wanted, be it a landscape or be it a colour or an experience, then there is no reason why I couldn't produce work which represented my response to a sound, because you just respond to sound the same way as you respond to sight. So I started changing my process, and I started making work directly from the birdsong. So as I was listening to it, I was there making marks with light on the paper, which was a very direct way and a very exciting way to work. I hadn't worked like that before. Nearly always I'd been working from memory of an experience, but now I could just sit there in the dark and listen to the birdsong flooding in, and I could make marks of my response to that birdsong. And as the months progressed, I went from the autumn to the winter. The birdsong was a lot less, so the work was quite intense and small. But as the spring and summer arrived, the birdsong just erupted. There was so much of it in the garden, and it was very difficult to try and pinpoint one particular song, so I had to try and envelop an awful lot of song, which in itself produced bigger prints, and more dramatic prints, as the work progressed. But interestingly, I found newer techniques, more techniques coming in, and newer marks to be made that seemed more appropriate to the new experience that I was experiencing and the new way that I was working. Particularly lines, they became quite an important part of the whole process, and I found a line to be a very accurate way to describe or to show how you are responding to a particular thing. You can't hide behind any process gimmicks or anything like that when it comes to just a single line. It just shows exactly what you're thinking at that time. So it's very accurate. You feel very vulnerable when you're doing it because, like I said, there's nothing to hide behind. But it is a good way, I found, to get the bare bones of what you're trying to show onto the paper, and then you can build everything else up around that line.